in a digestive system. On top of it, what I love about it is that it opens up. It brings a blossom flavor that's unique. One of the things that I've done, and I don't know how to call it properly, is I've taken some garlic cloves and I've smashed them with the back of the blade of my knife. So we'll call this what? Smashed garlic? Maybe I'm just inventing a whole new ingredient. But there is a reason why we've done that. What I want to do with the garlic done in this fashion, by breaking it up like this, but without chopping it, is that we're now letting the juices, the oils of the garlic, leaking into the sauce. With the soft heat, it's releasing its flavor into it. We don't have aroma vision right now, but trust me when I tell you, each one of the ingredients that we add, as we cook them slowly but surely, they're opening up, blossoming into this wonderful flow. The next thing that we're going to do, we're going to add the ginger, which I've chopped nicely and very finely because I want for the ginger to have a prevailing taste. And the chopper you cut it on the soft heat we'll be using, the more it gives to the aroma. There's a purpose and a reason to the way in which we actually cut or handle each one of the ingredients. The next thing we're going to do is to add a little bit of red pepper flakes, just because we want to add some heat, and a bit of chili paste. This is easily available at your local supermarket without a problem. Splendid indeed. I'm going to mix this up a little bit, letting it flow, and the next thing I'm going to do is the adding of the fresh herbs. In terms of fresh herbs, you can do basically anything that you want. What I want to do in this particular case is parsley. Why do I add the parsley so early into the process? Exactly as for the other things, I want it to softly cook into it. It releases its own natural oils into the flavor, and this, as you can see, is already the base. They started to pick up a different color, and this is the foundation of the sauce. But let's go with the things that I like to add next and why, because there's a kind of a funny story. It's not like, you know, I come up with great ideas all the time. There are disasters that take place in my house that you will never find out. And sometimes I come up with ideas just because I'm looking and I say, what do I do with this? I had a cocktail party at my house the night before, and I was left over with some grenadine. Yeah, grenadine, the one that you used to make drinks. And I said, how could I use it in cooking? So here we go. I like it because of the color, and I like it also because of the fact that it brings a certain sweetness to this whole thing. In addition to it, we're also going to put some soy sauce. With the saltiness of the soy sauce, I want it to fight and mingle and get married. Isn't it true? All the best relationships that we have, they always start with a little bit of a fight. I know that my wife did not want to go out on a date with me, but eventually I convinced her that I was the right man that she should be interacting with. The next part is what you're going to love the most, and that is the addition of sherry. I like sherry cooking wine because it has a sweet finish to it. And in all the flavors that we're putting together, this has a great personality that really enhances the sauce. You can use just about anything you want. If you want a drier finish, dry white wine will do. But this is what I like. So a little bit of sherry wine. And now we're going to crank up the heat a little bit higher. We want for this to evaporate. So bring it up on a higher level exactly like this, and you stir nicely. The aroma that is coming out, all of this already has its own strong personality. Now, for the next ingredient, I have to actually thank a friend of mine. I was on the television series here a few years ago. A good friend of mine, Wade Whistling, was working with me, was using the next ingredient, the mango, but he was using a whole mango. And I say, I like this. And as I tried this spectacular dish that he made with the salmon that we were doing at the time, I said, I think I could use this ingredient for a sauce. So I experimented several times. And what I have here is mango juice that you can find at your local supermarket without a problem. And we're going to be adding it. It's nice and thick. That's one of the things that the mango juice does have. And I love this because as it reduces into the sauce form, it gives us the thickness to which we need to add nothing else whatsoever. So together with that, the next thing that we're going to do, we're going to add a little bit of chicken stock and a little bit of clam juice. If you do not want to deal with clam juice because you might be allergic to it, it's something that your diet does not accept, what I would propose you do at that point is to simply substitute the clam juice with either additional chicken stock or some of the trimmings that you might have handy after you fillet the fish. Let's take a look at the fish and let's talk about the fact why this fish is so spectacular and why it's something that really I like to use with the sauce. You can actually use this sauce with many things. You can do it with shrimp, you can do it with scallops, even with chicken if you would want to. If you do with chicken, of course, don't use the clam juice as the addition, just go with extra chicken stock. Now, there are two ways in which we can serve this fish. One is with the skin. People like to have it with the skin because it gives you a moister finish. The skin takes all the heat in the cooking process. It curls up a little bit and it retains more of the moisture. I like to go without the skin, as you can see. And the reason why I like to do that is because it's just prettier. Come on, that's the truth. I think it's more of a formality than there is a real advantage to it. Now, we have to flavor this fish. We're going to cook this fish in extra light olive oil. I'm cranking the heat here on a non-stick pan. Non-stick pan is your best friend, so when you do that, make sure that you do use that. And now, before I even flavor the fish, what I like to do is to just put a dollop of the extra light oil on top of it. Now, watch what I do with my fingers. I do it on the front. I do it underneath as well. The reason why I do this, first I want the spices to stick. Let's talk about the spices. Salt. Be generous with it. A little bit of pepper. If you don't like the black to be seen, you can use white pepper. To me, I think the black pepper has a little bit more flavor. A little bit of paprika is going to give it a wonderful golden glow. A little bit of onion powder as well. We're going to do the other side as well. We'll repeat the process exactly the same. And then, when the heat is perfectly right inside the pan, we're going to add the fish. How do we know if it's right or not? Here's how I do it. I take a little bit of onion powder. I drop it quickly inside of it. And that can take another couple of minutes to go to it, so I'm going to blast the heat even higher. You want to have the heat blasting hot, but once it reaches the temperature of super hot heat, you want to reduce it down. Bring it down to medium-low. Fish does not like to be assaulted by continuous heat. This particular fillet, first and foremost, we're going to drop it on what I refer to as the prettiest part, which is right here. Now, you want to cook it on medium-low heat. And as it cooks on medium-low heat, you almost want to set your watch or your chronograph to it. You want it to make sure that it does only no more than 2.5 minutes per side. We're dealing with a fish fillet that it's only about I would say 4 to 5 ounces. Sometimes I take it as much as 6 ounces, but I believe that over 6 ounces, it's almost too much. It's a very rich fish, very dense, full of flavor. Now we're ready to turn the fish. There are two tools that you want to use, especially if you want to make sure you do it perfect. A nice spatula. I love a metal spatula, and a spoon. Watch this because it's going to help you enormously. The spoon secures it. We turn it gently, and this is exactly what I was saying. Look how gorgeous it is. This is the color that will be face up when we serve the fish. We're going to cook it for another 2.5 minutes until it's perfectly ready. The sauce we bring into a boil. Once it reduces to the proper amount after about an hour, mind you, we bring it to a boil first, then we reduce it down to a simmer, we let it cook for an hour, we will strain it, and now I'm going to show you next how to actually plate this wonderful dish. The sauce is now cooked to perfection. I just want to show you exactly what we started out with. This is the amount that you're going to be starting out with. Once this becomes to a boil, then we reduce it to a simmer. We simmer for about an hour, then we strain it. This is what you're going to have left after you strain it. Let's take a look at the volume of the sauce, because after we strain the sauce, we reduce it once again, almost by half. And I want you to see the thickness of the sauce. It's just splendid. Look at this. This is gold, I tell you, gold. You see what I mean? Now, I will show you exactly how to handle this. This is still nice and hot. We're going to place it right over here. In the dish, the way I like to serve this, we have some sauté spinach. I already put them over here with just a little touch of garlic. Very simple to make. Using our spatula, we put the fish down. What the spatula allows you to do it is to handle the fish gently. And the next thing I'm going to do is the sauce. A lot of people like to put the sauce right on top of the dish. I don't. I like to put it around. I feel that it has a much more elegant flow. You see how thick the sauce is? This is the consistency that I love. If you do not like this thickness, feel free to do whatever you like. And the pool of sauce all the way around, trust me, the fish is beautiful. It looks gorgeous. It tastes fantastic. But this sauce is a one-way to paradise, I tell you. So there you are. Black cod with mango and ginger sauce. And there you are. We are so accustomed to see green beans at a local supermarket, we never actually wonder where they come from. They come from a beautiful plant like this, gorgeous and green. Beans like these are the pods that grow right off to this plant. It takes about 6 weeks before you can start harvesting the beans from this plant, and a plot of land like this, about 8 by 10, can feed a whole family. In its prime, at its very best, you can almost get a full gallon of beans from this little plot of land. What I love about it is also the fact that it's an activity that you can do with your family and showing your children how the land is important to us, to our world, and how much better the flavor is of these fresh beans that come from the labor that we put together. As a matter of fact, I'm going to get a few of those. I'm going to bring them back in my kitchen, saute them with a little bit of garlic and a little bit of pepperoncino, and they will taste great. Saute green beans with garlic. Sounds simple, isn't it? Actually, it's very, very simple. The reason why I do it is because as a young boy growing up, I did not like veggies, but somehow green beans were one of my favorite. Let's talk about the thing that I used to do that kind of got me started. And that was helping my family clean the green beans. We used to do it by hand. Eventually, my dad allowed me to use the knife. And this is something that every one of you that makes green beans at home with this recipe ought to pay attention on how to do it. Let's take a look. These are the green beans right here, holding between my hands, already clean. Look at them perfectly. All the ends have gone. But before we get to this point, we must start with this. And this is what green beans look like when they're not clean. You see all these ends? There is nothing wrong with them. The reason why we want to take the ends off is just because they look prettier. That's the reason why. So here I go with a nice big knife, and this is going to make it nice and fast. Once you have them set up like this, what you want to do is just cut the ends off, and there you are. This is what you're left with. This is what I love. Now, how do we handle these green beans? A lot of people just like to saute them from raw. Nothing wrong with that, but if you saute them from raw, you have to realize that it takes quite a bit of time for the green beans to cook properly. So one of the things that we have done instead is we've taken a pot of boiling water to which we have added salt. If you want to add even more flavor to the pot of boiling water, you can add onion powder, paprika, any of the dry spices that you would want, but not herbs, because herbs do not do well in the boiling water and they will get stuck in your teeth. Very unpleasant. One of the things I know, I've experimented with this thing, did not work, but this does. Now, when you put them into the boiling water, you do not want to cook them and memorize this any more than 3 minutes. Once you reach the 3 minutes, make sure you have a timer that reminds you of. You take them out of the hot boiling water, and there is a waiting bowl full of iced water. Ice water. Do I know it? Because there is ice in there. What you will notice is that once we put it into the ice water, immediately they stop cooking. This is very important for us. Let them sit into the ice water for 3-4 minutes until they have completely stopped cooking. The reason why we use the ice water is that we want to make sure that they don't overcook. It will stop them right here. This is something great that you can do when you have a family meal, and it's one of those steps that allows you to do this ahead into the day so that once we move on to the recipe, we're able to finish the recipe right there and then. What I'm about to show you next is extremely important. This is what people like to use to dry the beans with. Paper towels. Yeah, paper towels. Not happening in my house. Nope. This is what we do. I have a nice cotton towel in which I place the beans that I fished out earlier from the boiling water. And what I want to do is to dry them as well as possible. Why? We are going to cook these beans into a saute pan with very high heat and olive oil. If there is a little speck of water in here, these suckers, and I call them that, yes, this is my nickname for them, they will explode. You will see what I mean. We got the pan going in here. I'm going to crank up the heat very, very high. A little bit of extra virgin olive oil. You can also use extra light olive oil. And then let's talk a little bit about the flavorings that you want to give. The flavorings that you want to add to the beans, as far as I'm concerned, you don't need to add them until the beans are cooking. There are 2 schools of thoughts to go in this process. One is to cook them, almost scorch them black on the outside. Nothing wrong with that. What that does, it cooks the skin a little bit more. It creates a crunchiness to it. Often you see it in Chinese restaurant, crunchy green beans, wonderful. A little dollop of soy sauce really expands that flavor. Or you can just simply saute so that they start to pick up a light color, but without giving you the crunchy finish to it. And then is what are the other ingredients that you add? Well, why don't we do this one together? So we got the oil in here ready to go. one of the things that I want to make sure that you pay attention to is the following. Let me place it right here next to the beans. These are things that I find extremely important. I want you to take a look at it before I start cooking. So look at this. These are red peppers that I have cut in a brunoise style, very finely diced. I want the ingredients cut very, very small because I want them to flavor the beans. I don't want them to wait for a long time until they cook through. So the smaller they are, the better they are. Is the olive oil ready for us? Let's take a look at it. I'll take a little piece of the red peppers and we look at it. It's starting to jump. You see it's moving. It says, get me out of here. I say, don't worry about it. We got the beans. And here we go with our beans, which we dried nicely. At this point, we get into the pan. I like to use a non-stick pan because it makes this job very, very easy. Shake the pan just a little bit so that they all get an even amount of cooking. And here we are. You can start to... Remember, the beans are pretty much al dente. It's like the making of pasta. At this point, as they're cooking in here, one of the things that I like to do is to move them about. I use my tongs to move them about because it's very efficient. It doesn't splash back any of the olive oil. Now we go with the flavoring that we want to give to it. Here we go with a little bit of salt. Here we go with a little bit of pepper. And then the things that I love the most, chopped garlic. Remember, chopped garlic is going to cook very fast, so we just want to keep it less than a minute in there. The red peppers just so that we give it a little bit of color. And red pepper flakes for a little bit of heat. And be careful with those because if you put too much, yes, you'll pay for it. So we saute them a little bit. The aroma is splendid. What you can do also is add herbs if you want to. Herbs would be fantastic. And the last thing that I do before I get ready to serve these beans, almost before I want to bring them to the table, is make an addition of Parmesan cheese. Just enough to put on top so that it creates a glaze and it melts with it. Trust me, these guys are completely done. Now we turn this off. And the reason why we turn this off is that you do not want to burn the Parmesan cheese right on top of the beans. Not the same thing wrong. It creates, in my opinion, a wonderful crust, but it does not look pretty. And since we're doing this to look pretty, well, you have to pay attention to it. So here we go with a serving that I want. Using the tongs, put them right here into our favorite bowl. And it's fantastic to bring this to the table and to show people what you've done. And let me tell you, most people say, oh, veggies, I don't like them, they're too healthy. Well, they might be too healthy, but these, they taste fantastic. These green beans are absolutely incredibly wonderful tasting. They have all sorts of layers of flavor that we built with the ingredients. And look at this, sauté green beans with garlic. And there you are. It was a pleasure to have you with me cooking in the kitchen. What a great honor that you would choose to spend your time with me, and I was so happy to show you my favorite recipes today on how to make black cod with mango and ginger sauce and sauté green beans with garlic and red peppers. I hope you'll use this at home to share with your family and with your friends so that you can turn your home into your favorite restaurant. Until next time, arrivederci. Halibut. I love halibut. Halibut is one of those fishes that to me has a welcome, sweet, gentle, buttery flavor that I adore. The fish is huge. I mean, there have been specimens which historically, once fished out from the deep, deep water of the ocean, been almost 600 pounds in size. The fish is big, it's large, but it's very flat. It's very flat because of the fact that down the depth of the ocean, the pressure is so much. The fish has what I would refer to it as not a model-like look about it. I wouldn't call it ugly because that's an insult, but let me tell you, pretty it is not. Great source of omega-3 acids. Fabulous, as a matter of fact. Responds extremely well to just about any type of cooking that we do. And it has been fished commercially, especially in the Alaskan water, since the late 1890s. One of those fishes that's been part of our diet for many, many years. Ciao, I am Nick Stellino. I was taking a look at these recipes that I personally selected for you today. It's all about pasta. Today, we'll make pasta with butternut squash and sausage, and then sweet sausage ragu. Please, join me in the kitchen. Spicy, just right. No, I didn't know that. I'm here with my good friend, Il Signor Cacioppo, a fellow Sicilian.
How you doing today, Nick?
He's a character like me. Signor Cacioppo, why don't we discuss something that's very important for people at home? When they shop for sausages and they bring it home, what is the longest that a sausage can stay in the refrigerator before it can be used? Because I think some people put it there for too long.
No, yeah, you're right. I think 3 days is plenty. You know, you buy it when it's nice and fresh when it leaves the shop, and then you should cook it before 3 days is up.
Now, one of the things that I love, and we're both Sicilians, we have this special thing for hot or spicy sausage. What do you put in your spicy sausage? What is the thing that gives it a kick?
Nick, I use crushed red chilies to add to our sausage to make it hot.
That gives it a nice little flavor.
Yeah, that's what we do.
Now, I want you to hear from him a technique that he uses at home because it's very similar to what my grandfather did. Now, you tell me, when you saute, first you put in water, right?
Yeah, we put about an inch of water in the frying pan, and we poach it like that and for about 5 minutes. And then we drain the liquid and we brown it to give it that nice little crunchy skin on the outside.
That's what I love. You know, it reminds me, it takes me back to my old days. That's exactly the way my family used to do it. They become tradition. Signor Cacioppo, these sausages are golden. Wrap them all up. I want to take them with me to the kitchen. I have a special recipe I want to show you.
You got it, Nick.
Spicy sausages. I love them. We're going to use this to make our favorite recipe, that is pasta with sausages and butternut squash. While you were not looking, I already started, and I have the sausages browning in a non-stick saute pan with a little bit of olive oil, and they got just the right consistency. Remember, they are not cooked all the way through, and we don't want them to cook all the way through. We want to keep them still somewhat pink in the middle because we're going to finish them into the sauce. It's going to be a great flavor addition to make to it. So what I do right now, I just take them out of the pan. The other thing that I want you to realize is different sausages made by different sausage makers have completely different content of fat. So it's possible sometime, especially with very fatty sausages, you might have a lot more oil left in the pan than what the recipe calls for. All that you have to do is just pour it out and keep what you need. This is just about all that we want. The reason why I like this a great deal, I'm going to increase the heat a little bit to medium, is because it has the flavor of the sausage itself. All the spices that went into making the sausage is truly giving us a complex flavor. You will notice that throughout the process, I will not be adding a great deal of flavoring to it. You may ask yourself, why don't you? Well, let's start, for example, with the onions. One of the things that I've done with the onions, I have diced them uniformly, and it's important that you try to do the very best that you can as you cut them to give them the same shape. Why? This way they cook the same. If you like to improvise with small variation, shallots would be ideal for this. Only in the case of shallots, slice them. And what I find with the shallots, when you slice them, they have a sweet texture that comes into it. It does not disappear as the sauce will eventually braise later on. Now, something that you are going to like is the addition of garlic. Take a look how thick this garlic is as we add it to the pan. And I'm going to tell you why. It's fairly thick. A lot of people get very concerned when they see garlic this big. They go, you know, I'm not going to be able to do this. This is too strong. It's going to be difficult for me to digest. Most of you people live in a world where garlic is overcooked. That accounts for the bad breath. That accounts for the unpleasantness the garlic might bring forth. When the garlic is cooked this nice and thick, but still is managed on a medium heat. Remember, when you do this at home, I want you to cook it like this for about 3 to 4 minutes, and you will notice that the onion slowly will become translucent. The garlic will not really brown, but will start to soften sweetly. And then we'll be adding the other ingredients as well. But over a long period of time, the sauce will cook for a good 30 minutes. The garlic will render all of its flavor into the sauce, bringing this beautiful character of its own, and it will be nice and soft. And when you finally have a piece of garlic that will be trapped between your upper molar and your lower molar, and you go to push, it will be like a marshmallowy-like cream that will splurt onto your papilla, on your tongue, and you will say to yourself, the Nick Stellino is good. By the way, you would be right, I am. The next thing that we're going to do is the adding of the fresh herbs. People say, why adding the fresh herbs now? More often than not, you see the adding of the fresh herbs toward the end. What I want for the fresh herbs to do at this point is to imbue all of these basic ingredients into the sauce and give them the flavor, the personality that they have. So here we go with the sage. Sage is extremely important. It's a wonderful marriage with the butternut squash that will come next. I'm using right now an addition of fresh basil. You can also use parsley if you don't have basil handy. And these two herbs are really a combination that establishes a foundation for the sauce. At this point, I'm going to increase the heat a little bit more. I'm going to put it to medium-high. And here comes the next addition, which is very important. Pay attention to the detail. This is butternut squash. We have diced this butternut squash in the same possible shape. I don't know, you cannot be scientifically perfect about it, but the more that the shape is equal in all the pieces, the better you will have. Stir it together with all the ingredients. What we want to do is just to mix it around so that it picks up a little bit of the other flavors that we had. You still notice that I added no salt, no pepper. Why? There's a purpose for that. The reason why we're holding back is because there's a great deal of flavor that's being let on by the sausage. We're also going to be adding a little bit of stock. But before we do that, here we have our wine, a little bit of white wine. Put this out on very high heat, and we go with the white wine, just enough of a touch. What we want to do is reduce it down to a glaze, and as the wine reduces to a glaze and it evaporates, you can see already the coloring. It picks up whatever bits of browning was at the bottom of the pan, reincorporates them into the sauce. Those, as far as I'm concerned, are flavor pods. It's not truly a name that exists in English, but it brings out the description. It brings out the picture that I want you to have mentally. When you cook a sauce especially, I want you to feel as if you're composing music. Hold on a second before I continue. I get lost in my own stories. Well, for those of you that see me before, you know that that's the case. Chicken stock is what we're going to add now. Also beef stock will do, but I would like to have the chicken stock. It's softening flavor, and what it does not fight with the flavor of the sausage. Now, when you make this at home, at this point, what I want you to do is to bring this to a boil, a rolling boil. Once this reaches a rolling boil, I want you to reduce it down to a simmer and to cook it for about 20-30 minutes. The most important part comes now. Do you remember the sausages that we held back before? We'll reintroduce them once again into the sauce as the sauce reduces and it goes from the very loose feel that you see here to a bit more of a thickened and reduced amount. The pasta that we have, I want to show it to you because it's a beautiful shape. Those are called conchiglie, and you will see exactly what I mean. Conchiglie, by the way, in Italian means shells. What I love about this pasta is that the pasta ultimately will capture on the inside in this curvaceous shape that it does have all the tidbits of the sauce. When you bite into it, you will be able to taste all the different ingredients that we've done so far. Conchiglie in Italian means little shell. Now, let's get moving with the pasta. Is it ready? I'll stir it about. Yes, she is. Oh, mamma mia. We're almost there. We're almost there. I'm also going to show you a technique called mantecatura, something that you will love a great deal. Ready? Here we go with the pasta. There you are. The first thing you want to do once you add the pasta is you have to connect with a concept. The pasta and the sauce need to become one. For this to happen, we need to cook the pasta into the sauce. A lot of people get very concerned at this point and say, but why? Don't you just reduce the sauce, put it on top of the pasta? If the pasta and the sauce are treated as two different things, you will never get the full flavor that you're looking for. But what you will notice is as I continue to cook this pasta, you want to do this for about 3 to 5 minutes, the sauce, the juice of the sauce will penetrate into the pasta. Imagine the pasta to be entirely one coil with many layers to it. And as you cook it, the sauce penetrates layer by layer by layer until it gives us the very perfect look. As you can see, most of the juice of the sauce has been now completely absorbed by the pasta. There are 2 more techniques that I want to show you. It's the addition of the cheese. When I do add the cheese, the first thing that I do, I completely turn off the heat. We do not want for the cheese to go to the bottom of the pan and burn and stick to the bottom of the pan. This is a non-stick pan, so this is less likely to happen. But if you do use a stainless steel surface, this is something that could do it for you. We're using right now grated Parmesan cheese. You can also use provolone or a mixture of the two. It doesn't matter. But watch what happens. You see the cheese right here? The next thing that happens as I turn it, just the heat retained by the pasta still gives us the melting of the cheese. The last thing that I'm going to do is a process called mantecatura. Mantecatura is the addition of a butter. Put about a tablespoon worth of butter in it. Now watch what happens and how the gloss, all this comes together. The cheese is melting perfectly into it. Look, this is what I love. This is the part of what, in my opinion, is the very best. So let's plate this. We have the plate waiting for us, and here it goes. Oh, mamma mia. This is something that I would not suggest as a low recipe, a low calorie diet, but I don't care. I work out. Every once in a while, you need to have pasta with sausage and butternut squash. It's good for the soul. It's going to make you smile. It's going to make you feel as if life makes sense once again. I know it because every time I don't feel right, every time things don't go well for me, the thing that I do, I spend a moment or two and I say to my wife, honey, what do you feel like for dinner tonight? And she goes, ma, if you were to make me some pasta, I would not mind. A little bit of pepper just to add a little bit of color and flavor. Pasta with butternut squash and sausage. Here it is. I love sausages. What I love about sausages is the way they taste. And I love to come here to my favorite butcher because he makes it with love. This is an old family recipe that's been in the family for many, many years. He makes all sorts of sausages, anywhere from kielbasa, chorizo, Italian-style sausages. And by the way, you should be aware of the fact that just about any Italian-style sausage that you find anywhere in the country is based on a Sicilian recipe. Us Sicilians like to feel that way. Why is it so? Fennel seed. Fennel seed is what makes the sweet sausage. Difference between sweet sausage and hot sausage is the addition of peperoncino rosso, red pepper flakes that gives it a little bit of fire. You also need to have a good amount of fat in a sausage to make sure that when the sausage cooks, it does not dry out. Pork, obviously, is the meat of choice. Butt or the shoulder is what they're used. These sausages are fantastic. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna get them all wrapped up and take it with me to the kitchen to create something special for you. Pasta with sweet sausage ragu. I love this. By the way, one of my favorite pastas. It's based on the concept of ragu. Ragu is a recipe that comes from Bologna. Ragu alla bolognese, as a matter of fact, is a very well-known recipe, quite famous all over Italy. When I was a little boy, indeed, was one of the things I loved to do the most. Usually it's done with beef. This one is exclusively done with sausages. Before I move on to the sausages, I have to show you something. You're going to love this. Check out this pasta. This pasta is called radiatori. I have to really point this out because it's very exciting. Pastas are fun, by the way. These radiatori, as you can see, are designed to imitate the look of a car radiator. Now, there are rumors that these particular cuts of pasta were invented by Italian car designers. I do tend to believe it. The concept here is that all these little rivets that are built into the pasta make the pasta much more effective at capturing the sauce. Is it true? Is it not? I don't know. I just love it. There are some cuts of pasta that are like, they make me feel like a little kid. I taste them and I think everything tastes better. Is it true? You know, it's true what's in your head. Anyway, we got it in here. We're going to let this one cook. Let's move on to the sausage and let me show you a couple of things. One of the things that we need to do is to get the sausage out of the casing. And we have a paring knife in here. This is what I usually do. I take a cut going all the way through, exactly like this. And then using my hand, you peel the casing off. I'm going to put the sausage exactly as it is into the pan. And the reason why I do that is because we're going to break it up with the back of a spoon. You can use any type of spoon, but it has to be a nice solid spoon. That is the problem a lot of people do have. If you use something soft as a spatula, it will not do it for you. So the process is for us, as you're cooking the sausage, to move it against the wall and break it up. The reason why we're using a pan with a high wall is that we're using the wall of the pan to help us break the sausage into the pieces that we want. These sausages will cook in about 4 minutes. I'm going to reduce the heat a little bit. You want to do it too high. We're doing this on medium heat. What we want to do right now is basically break it. There's not pretty designs that you want to do with the sausage this time. You just want to break them so that the sausage is going to release its flavor both into the oil and also into the base of this wonderful sauce. This is all that we need to do at this point. We broke it up exactly in the shape that we want. The next thing we're going to do, we're going to build the sausage. Each of the ingredients that we add is going to be imbued not only in the olive oil, but in the spicing that the sausage does have. First, we go with the onions, typical of the making of ragu. Then we go with celery, and then we go with carrots. One bit of advice that I can give you, make it so that when you add these ingredients, they are cut approximately the same size. They will cook more uniformly, and they will bring out to you the flavor that we need to have in this. I was telling you before that this sauce is based on the Bologna sauce called ragu alla bolognese. But if somebody was ever to ask you, what is that makes the ragu alla bolognese different from the ragu of any other part of the world? We have a ragu in Sicily, we have Neapolitan ragu. There's all sorts of different variations of ragu. The truth is the following. In Bologna, in their ragu, which is only made up with beef and a little bit maybe some time of prosciutto ground finely, they say no, but I know that they do it, is the addition of peas. Green peas are the essential ingredient that turns a ragu to ragu alla bolognese. Let's continue. You're cooking this on medium heat. We do not want to scorch the sausage. We want the sausage to mix well with all the other ingredients. And now it's truly when we start to build up the flavors. First, we're going to go with the garlic. Garlic cut fairly thick. We want the garlic not to burn. If you were to use chopped garlic at this point, because of the medium heat that we're using, it might actually burn. Because it's going to be a long process of cooking here and in the braising. By keeping it nice and thick, you avoid the possibility of that burning. And by the fact that this is going to be a long braise, the garlic will totally meld into its flavors and actually melt properly. A piece of garlic in your mouth, you will be surprised on how it does not taste at all as the kind of garlic you had in the past. We add a little bit of basil now, and we add this fresh basil right in it so that we give the flavor to it. What we can also do is at the end, once the sauce is ready, if you really love the flavor of basil, when you mix it with the pasta, you can add it to it then, but I don't think it's necessary. Next thing, extremely important, get the best red wine that you have. Nice, full of body. You add it, bring now the heat back up to very high heat. What you want to do is reduce this wine until the wine, half of it has evaporated. Why is this important? You're also noticing right now that I'm adding no salt and no pepper. One of the things that most people say, Nick, why don't you add these flavorings? Well, you have to realize that the sausage is full of flavoring already as it is. If we were to add too much salt, too much pepper, one of the problems we would have is that we'll be so completely overpowered with flavor that we'll go all the way to the right of it, and I don't think you can pull it back then. The last thing that we're going to do is add the bay leaf, and now we go with the other flavorings, which are the tomato sauce and the chicken stock. I use chicken stock because the sausage already has a very strong flavor. You could also use beef stock, but what I find is that when you use beef stock, it tends to fight with it. Now, we're going to take this sauce, we're going to bring it to a boil. Once the sauce reaches a boil, we'll reduce it down to a simmer, and it has to simmer for a minimum of 40-45 minutes. I have a sauce here that I've already made. Let's take a taste of it and see what it tastes like. Fantastic. I love me. Yes, the pasta is ready. We're now ready to add the pasta to the sauce. Now remember, when you take the pasta out with the insert, move slowly. This happens to a lot of people. And then there's this little trick. You see how I move my hands? It allows you to do something that you're going to love. And that is, make sure that none of this hot water drops on you. Look at this pasta. Is this gorgeous or what? Now remember, this pasta, because of its design, is fairly delicate. So when you go at it and you mix it together with the sauce, do it gently, exactly as I'm doing. I'm using now the wooden spoon, and look at this. The way it connects with it, the gloss that comes over, this is spectacular. Remember, this does not have a lot of loose liquid to it, and unlike the other pasta, you do not want to cook it for too long, because this pasta is already picking up the glaze that has been created by the heavy reduction that we've done with this ragu sauce. Look at that, wonderful. Two more steps that I need to do to make you see how to make this perfectly well. First thing we're going to do is turn off the heat altogether, and that's exactly what we're gonna do. I'm going to add a little bit of Parmesan cheese right into it. And this is gonna bring out a flavor like you won't believe. And then the addition of the butter, which ultimately is for us the little bit of what we call mantecatura. Now mix it all well together. What the butter will do, and you can see it as I'm moving it gently, is giving the pasta a glaze, a fantastic glaze. You know that we cooked the pasta just right because none of the pieces of the pasta are breaking. This butter is absolutely awesome. I'm sorry, I should not be making these strange noises, but there's something about pasta that not only brings me back to my youth, but still remains for me to this very date, in my mid-50s, something that I absolutely adore. Now, let's plate this. Enough talking, because if you leave it to me, I'll be here talking until the day after tomorrow. This, I want to serve it, I want you to see it, and then I'm going to eat it. Oh, mamma mia. Sono proprio bravo, which means I'm really good. I give myself enormous compliment all the time. Signori e signori, this is pasta with sweet sausage ragu. Just a little bit would be enough, but this is for me, and a little bit does not do the proper placement of it. So the last thing that I do to this pasta is a little bit more extra cheese all the way around. And just because I am somewhat devious, I like to put a little bit of pepper. Eh sì. And there it is. Sherry, un pezzo di parmigiano per favore. Grazie bella. Parmigiano. I love Parmigiano. Parmigiano, by the way, it's a cheese that it's not from Sicily. Can you believe this? We did not invent Parmigiano. It kills me when I think about it. Parmigiano is from the region of Reggio Emilia, specifically from the town of Parma, henceforth Parmigiano Reggiano. Parmigiano is a cheese that to this very day is made according to rules that were established almost 1,000 years ago. There is actually il Consorzio di Parmigiano Reggiano that has inspectors that goes to the various factories all around the area where Parmigiano Reggiano is made, checking the aging wheels of Parmigiano. By the way, those wheels are somewhat in the neighborhood of 45 kilos each. They're rotated every so often, and in spite of the fact that they're treated in the same exact way, some of them mature better than others. The inspectors have the job to actually crisscross those big, large pieces of Parmigiano, which according to their own opinion and the studies and the training that they got, does not make the proper cut to be called Parmigiano Reggiano. This is, in my opinion, one of the most dramatic and drastic undertaking to see this beautiful piece of cheese is taken off the line and replaced by another one. And whatever is left over, only the people in Parma get a chance to get this young Parmigiano Reggiano. But this is perfectly seasoned. It's mine. I'm taking it home. Thank you for joining me once again. This was a very exciting show for me because I got to cook the food that I love the most, pasta. Pasta with sausage and butternut squash, and then we did a pasta with sweet sausage ragu. I hope that you will use these recipes to entertain your friends and your family at home and turn your home into your favorite restaurant. Until next time, arrivederci. I'm shopping for my favorite ingredient for the soup I want to demonstrate for you. This is a kind of winter squash, but it's not my favorite winter squash. My favorite winter squash is butternut squash. Butternut squash, the Latin name of which is Cucurbita moscata. Try to say that fast 10 times. Even I cannot do that. One of the great things that I love about it is it's very easy to cook. It has a flavor that's rich, dense. If we were, for example, to cut this, the inside of it would be orange. And the riper it gets, the more deep orange it gets. But it's not just the color that I like. It's not just the flavor that I like. Also, what it does have is an enormous flexibility on how you can actually use it in the kitchen. You can roast it, you can saute it, you can make the soup, as I will show you. But it's the health benefit that this particular vegetable does have. What I love about it is, first and foremost, an enormous amount of antioxidants, which are great for you. There's B6, potassium. Unbeknownst to me, as I was studying onto it, I discovered that a cup of this, taken on a daily basis, is your whole allowance of vitamin C. The thing that I love the most about it is how it responds with a unique yield of flavor to the different type of cooking that you do. If you were to experiment with this, one of the things that I propose is try different techniques. If you roast it, it will taste a certain way. If you saute it, it will taste a different way. If you cook it in the form of a soup with a sofrito underneath, and by the way, when I say sofrito, I mean a nice combination of onions, celery, carrots, which is at the base of the soup that we make, it will pick up a different type of flavor. It's the amazing dexterity that this particular vegetable has to respond to the different type of cooking and the yield that it brings back that I truly adore. Now, Let's talk about storage. Most people buy this and they put it in the refrigerator. This is not something that you would want to do. When you buy this, keep it in a cool space, very well ventilated. And in this present form, uncut, it will stay nice and edible all the way for about 3 months. If you should find yourself needing a piece of it and cutting it, then you need to cover it with a little bit of plastic, put it inside the refrigerator. But at that point, you have no more than a week. The seeds on the inside are not edible. I would suggest that once you cut it open, get rid of the seeds, also because of the first one to spoil. Ciao, I am Nick Stellino. You are going to love this. This takes me back to my youth in Sicily. As a matter of fact, I'm going to share with you 2 recipes that were truly prevalent in my youth. We will make for you grilled shrimp with stewed peppers, and then a tuna, tomato, olive oil, and caper salad. As a matter of fact, the kind of tuna we're going to use is ventresca. Please join me in the kitchen. Spicy just right. When it comes to peppers, you want to think as the reverse of football. In this game of peppers, it's not the big guys that win, it's the little guys. And let me tell you why. Habanero, Thai chili, shishito, they are so powerfully hot that an inexperienced cook could truly get themselves in trouble. Why? Super, super hot. These are sweet peppers. They are commonly called capsicum annanum. It's a mouthful, I know. It took me a while to be able to say it correctly. What makes these peppers very, very interesting is the fact that they have a flavor that develops over time. All peppers start out as green peppers. That is, this variety of sweet peppers. But from this green, they move on to something more exciting as yellow, orange, and red. And it's a variety of these that I like to use in the making of peperonata. What makes the peppers so interesting? First and foremost, they are loaded with vitamin C, and it's very, very good for you. Also, they have enormous flexibility in the way in which you can treat them. You can cut them in pieces, you can saute them, you can roast them, you can stuff it with rice, you can stuff them with sausages, or you can make a wonderful braise, which as Italian call peperonata. When you do use the peperonata, don't make a mistake. You want to go ahead with sweet peppers, because as the sweet peppers cook together with a little bit of onion and garlic, they produce this flavor, which is just the end of the world. As a matter of fact, I'm so excited about what I'm telling you that I'm going to take these with me in the kitchen. But keep in mind, for those of you that like things in life a little bit spicy, when no one else is looking, if you were to put a little bit of jalapeno or habanero in there, as long as you're honest to the people that you're serving it to, that would be a wonderful thing to do. Peppers, as far as I'm concerned, are the one thing that make life sweet. But they have to be sweet pepper. Capsicum annanum. Isn't this beautiful shrimp? Oh, you just got to wait and see what I'm going to be making with this. Today, we're going to make grilled shrimp with stewed peppers. The Italian name for stewed peppers is peperonata. There are different versions on how peperonata is made from northern Italy to southern Italy, different additions that are placed in. However, the result is the same. It's absolutely delicious. So, first and foremost, we start with olive oil. Now, the amount of olive oil that you're going to put to this is abundant, and there is a reason to it. The olive oil itself will become the sauce because it's going to be imbued with all the flavors that we put in. You don't want to start with a hot pan. As a matter of fact, the process that we're going to get involved with is the stewing process. So usually what I like to do is to bring into medium heat. So as the ingredients touch the pan, they will not sizzle. You don't want them to sizzle. You want a constant medium heat that allows for the ingredients to release their juices. And these are the ingredients we're going to go with. Yellow peppers, red peppers, and onions. One of the things I want you to notice is how much volume there is right here in the pan. And this is what more often than not discourages people. They look at this thing and they go to themselves, oy vey, I will never get to this thing. It's going to take forever. But basically, try to remember all of these ingredients are full of water. The water will mingle with the olive oil, and over the stewing process, it will release itself into the very base of it, giving us the flavor that we want. This is not a sauce in which you really need to build up the flavors a little bit at a time and at different cooking. It's pretty much the same constant flow of cooking. So the next thing that we need to do is to actually impart the flavor to it. You know that usually I always hold back with the salt, but you always want to give a little bit of the salt right here and right now. because we want the salt to do two things for now. And what I like to use, by the way, is sea salt. We want for the salt to help draw out its juices, draw out the water, because you want it to go into the bottom, into the stewing process itself. Also, a little bit of black pepper. I love it. And here you're going to love this and be surprised of it at the same time. A tiny bit of vinegar and a little bit of sugar, almost in the same amount. This creates, in Italian we say, come si può dire, agrodolce. Agrodolce is a word that, in my opinion, belongs to Sicily. You have to realize, historically speaking, sugar was a very rare commodity. In Sicily, we have a lot of salt, but not sugar. So the addition of sugar meant in the old days that you were a man of wealth, and therefore balancing with the vinegar, the agrodolce, the sweet and sour, creating this unique finish to it, brings out these super flavors. The next thing that we want to do as well is to add parsley. Parsley just like this. The parsley will bring a flavor. It's going to move this whole stewing process into a certain direction. The next thing that we want to do is add the garlic. But I have to show you something very important about the garlic. And pay attention to what I'm saying right now. This is the garlic we're about to add. You see how thick it is? It's very important that you leave it thick. Remember, this particular dish, the peperonata, will cook for roughly about 35-40 minutes, depending on the amount that you make. If you were to add chopped garlic, the chopped garlic, as you turn this occasionally, you want to turn the peperonata as it softens every 15-20 minutes. If it goes to the bottom, the chopped garlic will burn. And unfortunately, if it burns, it's going to ruin for you the whole dish. Now, to add some of the liquid and make sure that the peperonata also picks up the traditional red color, we put some tomato sauce. And this tomato sauce is going to take it for us exactly where it's at. From this point on, all that you want to do is to let the peperonata go. Two different techniques of what you can do. You can put a cover on top of the pot, and this will increase the speed at which the peperonata will come down to its proper look and form. And you want to wait? Now, come on, I have something for you. I already made it. I'm going to show you exactly what it looks like. You don't need to wait until the end of the show. Follow this. This is what we started out with. So 45 minutes later, this is what the peperonata will look like. You see, thickened, melded, all these flavors running in there. You have the sweetness of the sugar, the little bitterness of the vinegar. The garlic is now completely cooked, and you will be surprised because these pieces of garlic, once you bite into them, would actually melt into your mouth. The combination of peppers, the yellow, the green, and if you're lucky enough, orange is wonderful, even a little bit of green will give you a fantastic flavor. Let's now take a look at the shrimp, because I want to share with you something truly exciting on how to actually handle the shrimp. One of the biggest things that people make, not a mistake, it's how you like it. You see the tail of the shrimp, it's right here. I personally don't like dealing with this, especially when I'm eating. So this is what I do. I take two fingers, you simply crack it at the bottom, and you just slip it out. I'll do it again right here. Crack it, slip it out. I have one more over here. Crack it, slip it out. Think of it as a song. You'll go, crack it, slip it out, crack it, slip it up. You'll say, what are you doing? And you'll say, oh, I'm singing the Nixtellino shrimp song. So we put the shrimp in this little plate right here, and the next thing that we're going to do, we are going to pour right on top of it the marinade. You might ask yourself, marinade, Stellino, you haven't shown me nothing. How do you make the marinade? Relax already. Mamma mia, you're always in a rush here. I'm going to show you to make this because this marinade is a secret. I should not show it to you, but this is a cooking show, and unless I share these recipes, you will never trust me again. The recipe for the marinade is very, very important. First and foremost, what you want to do is have a little bit of the peperonata that you made ahead of time. This marinade, by the way, can be made the day before. And don't worry about the peperonata because we do not want to have the peperonata hot in this particular dish. We want to have the peperonata at room temperature. Then extra virgin olive oil, nice flavor, a little bit of sherry wine, parsley, whole leaves of parsley going right into, just like this. Very important. Parsley imparts a fabulous flavor. A little bit of paprika, onion powder, red pepper flakes. Oh, you saw how much I added. You see, my wife is not looking right now, so I get to make it as spicy as I want. And then oregano. Cover the top. You may ask yourself why. You've seen the show before. You know what happens to me when I do it. So what you want to have is a real good, strong pull, and it will give you the creaminess of what you want. So, done. When you make this at home, the shrimp, you want to let it marinate no more than, I would say, half hour, 45 minutes. The little bit of acidity that's in the wine, if you leave it in here for too long, might actually cook the shrimp. come with me to the stove. We have preheated this grill pans right here on very high heat. One of the problems that you might have at home when you cook with the grill pans is that being open, much of the heat evaporates. So this is a technique that I've used. I usually stack two on top of each other. This allows you to maintain the heat in the pan below. They don't need to be the exact pans. You can just want to make sure that you have a pan that has the same surface. And the pan below is now, oh yeah, it's ready to go. So we're going to grill the shrimp. It's not going to take them much time for the shrimp to cook. The flavoring that's brought in by the marinade is going to give us a flavor that you will not believe. I would say about 2 minutes per side will do. Then we're going to pull out the shrimp. We want to keep it tender. And we're going to have exactly what we want. Now we're going to turn the shrimp. Ah, look at those grill marks. All that you see in that is the ingredients of the marinade, which are perfect. We're almost there. Our marinade has given us the flavor that we want for the shrimp. Our peperonata is ready. And now I'm going to show you how to plate it. One of the things that I love about this dish is truly, this is a country dish, is as common as it comes. But the complexity of the flavor, the way in which it plays with your palate, it gives you a variety of things. With every single bite, you feel transported to the next flavor, to the next flavor. It's just, in my opinion, in spite of the fact that it has very humble beginnings, it's one of the most elegant things I know. Now, the plating of it, this is exaggerated. It's me just trying to be Nick Stellino. My mom did not do it this way, but I think about this as if I was running the restaurant and I was saying, when customers come in, I want to have an experience that is just as visual as it is something that tastes great. I think that first and foremost, we fall in love with things through the way we look at them. The shrimp is ready here. Ow, 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 ow. Stop. But I love to use my fingers. It's one of the things that I have not lost. Look at that. Look at the third shrimp right here. How gorgeous is this? And then what I should do next? Let me think about it. Oh, yes. The best of extra virgin olive oil that you can possibly have. And I don't even want to ruin it with parsley or anything else. I just want you to fall in love with this. Grilled shrimp with stewed peppers. And there it is. Tomatoes, are they a fruit or are they a vegetable? Well, if you talk to a botanist, they will tell you that they are a fruit because they come from a fruit-bearing plant. However, according to a court decision, a U.S. Supreme Court decision rendered on May 10, 1893, tomatoes were defined to be vegetables. And the reason why was because they are served as a side dish and never as a dessert. Interesting way to go at it. Why do I love tomato? Well, we could go the scientific way. It's chock full of lycopene. And that is a very powerful antioxidant that's extremely great for you. Me, I love the flavor. But how did tomatoes come into our life? Tomatoes were not generated in Europe. As a matter of fact, tomatoes came to America from Christopher Columbus, who brought it right after discovering it. But they were not red tomatoes that came to Europe for the first time. As a matter of fact, the tomatoes that came were these wonderful yellow tomatoes. And that's where the name comes from in Italian. In Italian, the name of tomato is pomodoro. Pomodoro comes from a definition that was given in the year 1544 by a physician and a botanist, Andrea Mattioli, who called the tomato il pomodoro, henceforth pomodoro. Very now remembered by every Italian by the name, but that's not the romantic part that I love about it. You see, in the old days, tomatoes were so rare and so few between, they were often given as an act of love between young lovers. And therefore, the name truly, as it reflected, was il pomo d'amore, the apple of love. Different types of tomatoes taste completely different. These heirloom tomatoes, for example, they're not much to look at. As you can see, they're not pretty, but they taste fantastic. What I encourage you is to always try tomatoes in different recipes, in different ways, and make up for yourself which one you love the most. Follow me in the kitchen. These beautiful tomatoes are what I'm going to use to make our beautiful salad with tuna, tomatoes, olives, and capers, a Sicilian specialty. Just a couple of little improvements that will make upon, which we'll call the Stellino signature. Tomatoes. Tomatoes are a sweet thing and a tragic thing all at the same time. Why? Especially in wintertime, in spite of the fact that some of us get tomatoes all year round, the tomatoes don't taste that great. How to fix that? How to bring back the sweetness of summer into the tomatoes. It's a slight marination that you can do, and I want to walk you through it and show it to you. Cut the tomatoes in fairly thick slices. I'm thinking half an inch at least, like we've done right here. I'm using two different types of tomatoes. Let's see where they go. Uno di qua, uno di là, uno di qua. You don't need to speak Italian while you do it, but it does help somewhat. Why? You know, I find that speaking with an accent gets me out of a lot of trouble. Put the tomatoes right in here. Uno di qua, uno di là, uno di qua. Uno di qua, uno di là simply means one here, one there, another one over there. Let's talk about what are we trying to do and what are we trying to accomplish. Tomatoes, in the middle of summer, if you grow them in your garden, they taste splendid, sweet with everything. If you buy them in winter, they don't. How do we fix that? First and foremost, you put a little bit of salt on each one of the tomatoes. I like to use sea salt. The reason why I like to use sea salt, I find it to be better tasting and much more agreeable. Then, a little bit of onion powder to cover each one of the tomatoes, a little bit of garlic powder. If you have it in granulated form, it's even better. I find it to be kind of sweeter. Paprika. Why? I'm in love with paprika. Is this Sicilian? Not at all. But in my family, we had an Hungarian uncle who introduced all of us to paprika. The next thing we're going to do is sugar. Just a touch of sugar on top of the tomatoes, just a touch. Now, why are we doing all of these things? All of these flavors that you see me adding to it slowly but surely will start to penetrate into the tomatoes. Once we've done it on one side, I want you to turn it onto the other side. Exactly like this. And repeat the process. A little bit of sugar, a little bit of paprika, onion powder, and garlic powder.